And ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to today's event, sponsored by Kofax from Lexmark and hosted by American Banker, titled Banks Transformation into Digital Business. Before we get started, I'd like to mention that today's web seminar is being recorded and you are currently in a listen-only mode. Now I'd like to acquaint you with some of the ways you can participate today. The On24 room you are in allows you to individually adjust and resize all available panels that appear on your screen. To resize any of the console panes, simply click on the lower right corner of that panel to adjust. You can move panes also to your preference by clicking anywhere on the top title bar of that panel, and then you can just drag it to your desired location within the console. Please note we will have a question and answer session at the end of today's presentation. You may type your question into the Q&A panel that is available to you on the left-hand side of your screen. By typing your question into that panel, hitting submit, your question will be logged into queue. And we'll take as many questions as time allows. Also during the session, we will ask for your feedback by voting on a polling question or two. The polls will appear right in your slide viewing area. All you need to do is check the radio button that corresponds to your answer in that panel and then click the submit button. And finally, if you experience any technical difficulties today, first, try refreshing your browser to reset your connection. And if that doesn't work, go ahead and enter a question into the Q&A panel stating your technical issue, and I'll be more than happy to assist. So now, without further delay, let's begin today's event, sponsored by Kofax from Lexmark and hosted by American Banker. It's my pleasure to introduce your moderator for today, and that is Penny Crossman. Penny, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Greg. Welcome, everybody, to our webcast. Banks transformation into digital businesses is a really important topic to all of our readers. Banks have been making this transition for several years, in part to keep themselves modern and up to date. In part, I think they're being pushed by fintech startups and marketplace lenders and tech giants like Apple, Lending Club, Quicken Loans, Betterment, and such, who are all taking on a disruptor role in capturing some of consumers' attention in areas like payments and personal financial management and online lending, and kind of forcing banks to step up their digital offerings. But a lot of banks have already been making tremendous strides in becoming more digital on their own. With us today, we have three such leaders in the banking industry who have all been doing some really innovative work in their banks. They are each going to tell us a little bit about their digital journey. We are also going to open up the floor to questions from the audience, and we're going to turn this into sort of a panel Q&A discussion with the panelists. So please feel free to type in a question. We do want to make this, as interactive as we can, and these truly are people who've been doing some excellent, interesting work. So we have with us today Jamie Armistead, who is the Executive Vice President and Head of Digital Channels at Bank of the West. Under his watch, the bank was one of the first in North America to offer pre-login account balances on mobile devices. In 2014, it was one of the first to let mobile customers pay bills by taking a photo of the bill stub. Before joining Bank of the West, Jamie spent 11 years in digital channels at Bank of America. And we have Melissa Stewart, who recently became Chief Digital Officer at Westpac New Zealand, which is another digital banking pioneer. Before taking on this role, she ran the transactional banking and payments function at Westpac. She's responsible for payments, payments, data, and technology solutions to the corporate and institutional customer base. She's also held various product roles. She's also been Chief Operating Officer for the Institutional Private Wealth Insurance Business Unit. Melissa's originally from England, and she spent the first 5 years of her career with Citigroup. And we have with us Jeff Dennis, who is Chief Digital Banking Officer and Head of Business Development and Digital Transformation at BBVA Compass. His responsibilities include marketing, consumer and business banking, payments, customer experience, channel development, and business strategy. Before joining BBVA Compass, Jeff led digital efforts at SunTrust, at Huntington National Bank, where he was the head of digital and chief digital officer, respectively. he was also one of Bank Technology News' top innovators of the year in 2011. And I'm sorry, something seems to be happening with the slides. I'm not sure why we are experiencing that. And we also have with us today Paul Giordano, who is Director of Product Marketing at Lexmark. He is Senior Executive at the company. He has more than 20 years of experience in enterprise software, IT consulting services, and web application development. Before joining Kofax, he was Director of Strategic Partner Sales for Solanus Technology, and he ran several IT services and web application development companies, including Infinite Info. He also worked at Red Hat, Ars Digita, and AppNet. We're going to actually kick things off with a quick poll question. We want to know what you guys think. We want to know where your bank is in its digital transformation. Are you confident that your mobile, online, and branch self-service offerings are top-notch? Are you working on your mobile, online, and branch self-service offerings, but you know there's room for improvement? Are you just at the beginning of a digital transformation? Or are you wondering, what is a digital transformation? We'll give you just a couple of seconds to answer, and let's go to the results. So most of you, as we would expect, are working on it. You know there's room for improvement. And then about 28% have honestly admitted that you're just at the beginning, and make that 31% actually. So very good. So with that, I would like to turn things over to Jamie Armistead at Bank of the West. Jamie?
Great. Thanks, Penny. So I'll just take a few minutes and introduce what we've been doing with Bank of the West. And I apologize, Penny, I'm not sure, Greg, if you can advance the slides for me, because I don't think that my end is advancing as proper. So if we're looking at slide 10, that would be great. If you can confirm, Greg. Thank you. Okay. All right. So just to give a quick highlights of some of the things that we've been up to at Bank of the West. Our first slide in just talks about how we think about digital. So we really organize ourselves around the sales and service metaphor. On the sales front, it's kind of the typical sales funnel view of things. We're really working with our marketing partners at the top of the funnel to generate demand and bring eyeballs and bring people to our site and bring the traffic to the site. Then focused on those sales experiences of the public website, of landing pages, how we're engaging customers via chat and other mechanisms. What calls to actions are we driving? How relevant are those calls to action? Are we getting people to start down that apply path? And then ultimately, how do people apply and fund? So that's kind of the sales paradigm, and where you think we like to think like a retailer in that regard. I'll be the first to admit we're not yet at the place where we have all of the bells and whistles in terms of technology tools that an online retailer has, but we're certainly on a path to get there, and have been making great strides in that regard. And then from a service perspective, we really think of it kind of the inversion of the funnel. How do you get people to start down the path of digital servicing? How do you just the basics of enrolling and starting to take advantage of online and mobile banking? Then deeper engagement. There's a whole host of things that they can do in terms of e-statements, alerts, using all the various self-service capabilities, and then ultimately leading into how well we cross-sell additional services and products to those customers. So that's kind of the framework that we use when we look at digital and how we think about the capabilities that we're bringing to market. Next slide. In terms of what's gone on in the last few years, going back to 2012, Bank of the West made a sort of deliberate decision to really be more progressive in digital and make significantly more investments in digital. And so that I came on midway through 2012, and we had already started to ramp up the team. And you can see kind of the historical, very small team size, kind of keep the lights on and maybe a project per year. Some very dated platforms, no offense to anyone associated with Vignette, but a bit of a dated content management system. And so we ended up going through a process of re-platforming kind of the four major platforms on which digital is built. So we re-platformed our content management system. We redid our online application flow. We just completed our upgrade for online banking, and we also upgraded our mobile banking platform. So those are the platform pieces. Those didn't all happen in 2015. Many of those happened much faster than that. But where we are today, you can kind of see the comparison of before and after, and then also with the team itself. And I'll talk a little bit more about that team and how we're organized and how we are aligned to support everything that we have going on in digital. So next slide. So at the top of the organization, basically we have our product management functions that are broken into that sales service paradigm. So bankofthewest.com, online account opening, and then consumer online banking, business online banking, and mobile banking. And then we have a shared services layer of customer experience, user experience. So we're a little bit over-indexed in that regard. It's a bit of my background. So we brought the design function in-house, which has been really beneficial for us in terms of just bringing top quality user experiences to market with our digital products. Then we have a BI and analytics function that is doing all our measurement and reporting and analytics, and a project/program management function that has all our financials and project management and so forth. So really kind of have all the structural framework in place. The team is, obviously it could scale up, scale down according to the investment level and kind of appetite of the company. It's been sort of steadily scaling up to the size that it is now, and feel like we've got sort of good solid coverage and framework in place and can continue to advance the capabilities. I don't want to say as quickly as we want to, but we've certainly been able to bring a lot of good work to market over the course of 2015 and before that in 2014, and look forward to more. So some highlights on the next slide. I'll just go through some highlights of things that we've launched somewhat recently, and I think Scan to Pay is the first up, and for whatever reason on mine, I'm not actually seeing the content in the phone images. I'm hoping that that's not the case for everyone. So basically Scan to Pay, as Penny mentioned, is a capability where our customers can take a photo of a bill stub. So if they're in the sort of add payee mode within mobile, they're able to tear off and take a picture of that stub, and through optical character recognition, we recognize what the capability is, and we're able to bring back all of the relevant payment information. So Comcast is the biller, the account number, the amount due, et cetera. So it's really a pretty sophisticated capability, and has been a really nice win for our customers. And we've actually seen about a third of the folks that use the service are new to bill pay, so driving that sort of critical bill pay adoption through the service. And so we were finding that people like it for those one-off bills, and that they might have thought about writing a check for. It's kind of a hassle. They don't want to go through the process of setting it up, but this feature really enables that and makes it very streamlined and efficient for them. Next slide is our online banking upgrade. Just a quick screenshot of that. Obviously, anytime you do a full online banking upgrade, this was soup to nuts from hardware, the hardware architecture on which it's configured, new middleware layer, new application layer, new presentation layer. So huge undertaking. I know many other banks out there are in the midst of various states of their online banking upgrades, so I can commiserate with the challenges that are part of that. But we're really excited to have this in market. It's a really simplified user experience. It's both desktop and tablet friendly. We did not do full responsive. I know Westpac is going to delight us with some nice things about a fully responsive unified platform. But with ours, it's strictly for the tablet and the desktop experience, but does a nice job integrating some additional capabilities like the quick pay and the quick transfers, so customers can kind of navigate their financial lives right from one screen. We've integrated categorization of transactions into the account register, so sort of that PFM coming to life and making it much easier for people to track their finances, track their spending. We integrated that spending piece right on the account overview, so I think that was really a big win for us. And we spent a lot of time doing customer research around this and sitting with people and getting feedback and iterating through the design. So really pleased with the outcome here, and it addresses a number of different customer pain points and things that they were asking for. And then from an architectural perspective, could not be happier with where we are there. We moved from sort of these long release cycles and so forth, and post the upgrade, we had a lot of little things that kind of go in any project, little things that we wanted to clean up after the fact, and we've been able to push updates about 10 times in the last 6 months, which is a great pacing for us. I don't know that we'll keep on that pacing relative to sort of bigger scale projects, but certainly put us in a place from an architectural perspective where we're moving very, very quickly and very differently than we had previously. The next up is a snapshot of some stuff that's actually coming soon. So very soon on our mobile banking platform, we'll have Pop Money enabled. Not necessarily first to market here, but in terms of P2P, obviously is something that's absolutely ripe for the mobile devices, and enabling this on mobile is something that we think makes a ton of sense and allows people to access their contacts and pull up the email or the mobile number and send the money accordingly. So I'm excited to have that coming through on mobile. And then last but not least, also coming very soon is the mobile enrollment flow. So customers will be able to actually enroll through their mobile device. And so we think this is really an interesting one, an important one, because it cuts through, if you think about the Pew Research on mobile devices cutting through kind of the socioeconomic divide, this is one where there's no gating factor in the branches in terms of talking to our customers about using digital. And now, if you've got a smartphone in your hand, you can be doing your banking fully digitally. You don't have to go to a PC anywhere to get enrolled and get started. You can download the app and just and get started straight away. So some of the newer things that we have coming to market here in the knock wood in the coming months. So thanks, Penny. I'll turn it back over to you.
Great, thank you so much. We're now going to go to Melissa Stewart at Westpac New Zealand. Melissa?
Great. Thank you, Penny, and delighted to be here. So, look, I wanted to just spend the next couple of minutes talking a little bit about the journey so far for Westpac, and I'll kind of overlay two angles. The first is really what this is meant for our customers, but also what this has meant for our people, because I really think that digital culture and building that along the journey is hugely important in driving a digital-first agenda. So, look, I'll talk about a couple of key topics. So, the foundations of our next best conversation platform, and also our fully responsive Westpac One digital platform 2. I'll talk a little bit about partnerships and how we're experimenting with data visualization, and then I'll finally finish off with what is probably going to be our biggest priority over the next year, is building our e-commerce platform. So again, I think the slides are jumping around a little bit. I'll try and take over. Here we go. Okay, so look, the journey really started with our vision, which was to be one of the world's great service companies. And what that did is actually gave us this clear mandate to be a real customer-led organization. And when we thought about that vision, we had an epiphany. It actually seems like common sense now, but what we really needed to do was understand our customers and actually just converse with them, so talk to them. So back when we started on this journey, we were talking to less than 30% of our customers. And that was really the genesis of the next best conversation platform. And what we realized very quickly is you could do all the segmentation in the world, but actually, every customer was traveling, or they were choosing to own a home, or they were wanting to connect with customers. And the difference between the customers doing this, it was all about context, and it was all about timing, and the why they were traveling and when they were wanting to own a home. And so the Next Best Conversation platform was really leveraging that data to really proactively talk with our customers at the right time and in the channel that suited them. So we were using the data that we had to push Next Best Conversations either via email or into online banking through ATMs, through SMS, and most importantly also into our frontline channels. So a customer, whether they went into a branch or whether they went into online banking, there would be a prompt there to have a conversation on what we believed was relevant to them. And so through this platform, we actually moved to having proactive conversations with 90% of our customers over the space of the 2 years. And the personalization element really resonated with customers, such that the campaign results were delivering 3 times the success rate of previous uninformed campaigns, if you will. And so while that program was really deepening our relationships with customers, just as importantly, it was actually working for our frontline teams. So they were feeling really empowered to have relevant conversations, and they were gaining feedback from customers through our Voice of the Customer tool that was part of this program. And so that was a real turning point for digital, in that our frontline was actually seeing digital just as much as a channel in its own right, as an enabler of human interaction. So retaining that kind of emotional connection throughout the journey. So look, moving then, the next kind of foundation for us was a refresh of our online banking platform, aptly named Westpac One. 2 key themes here, and I'll reflect on kind of Jamie's comments as well. Absolutely simple, intuitive design, and we did choose to go down the fully responsive platform route, and that was the first in our market, and hugely successful from an efficiency perspective. So truly efficient, scalable, ongoing development. The consistent look and feel, hugely important. So whichever device our customers choose to interact with us, same look and feel and same navigation. But most importantly, I think choosing the fully responsive design really accelerated our mobile-first agenda. And so immediately, we had over 120 features and functionality in our mobile channel. And as a result of that, we actually saw a 40% lift in customers engaging with us through mobile, because we had instant kind of access to features and functionality. So fully responsive. It also enabled us to be first to market with Apple Watch when it came out. So a real device agnostic approach to development. Hugely successful launch, again driven by really strong internal engagement first. So a very strong focus on a beta launch internally, so that our customers, so that our own staff actually had the confidence in driving adoption when we finally launched. The next element of Westpac One for us is the personalization. So again, we're getting lots of qualitative research showing us that customers, while they love digital, they also fear losing that emotional connection and that human element. And so using our next best conversation platform to interact with customers in a personalized way online really adds that emotional connection that we believe customers are looking for. So look, I think as Jamie said, quite a huge undertaking. The important thing for us is we kept experimenting, even though we were doing a large digital transformation. We were experimenting with wearables. We continue to experiment. We launched an augmented reality app. We're experimenting with Oculus Rift at the moment. And the benefit of all of that experimentation is that we actually learned that customers loved visualization. And so the visualization learning was, I guess, the catalyst for us to then look at our next partnership, which was with Movin. We integrated that. We used that visualization and integrated that into our quick access element of our mobile app. And so customers, we have a spend meter now, and customers can see how they're spending over the course of the month, and using a color scheme to alert them to whether they're kind of over or under. A great fit with our strategy. Westpac is really kind of obsessed with helping our customers with financial health and financial literacy. So absolutely consistent with our strategy, but again, really critical to driving mobile engagement. And what we've seen is actually almost entirely due to the richness of this quick access profile. We've seen the number of engagements over the course of a month jump from 14 to 24, so a 64% uplift in that mobile engagement, 100% driven by the richness of this quick access platform. So, look, those are kind of the foundations of our journey so far. And look, we're really excited about the next stage, which, as Jamie mentioned, is about greater end-to-end journeys for customers. So we too absolutely think like a retailer when talking about digital sales, and we're well underway with a e-commerce platform, and it's absolutely exploding. So, online lending, 40% of our lending apps are now received online, and we're decisioning almost 90% of them within seconds. We've actually just launched over the course of the last week a full end-to-end digital onboarding of debit cards and transaction accounts, and that just follows a program of work. We launched credit cards just recently as well, and originated a whole year's worth of a regular kind of origination in just 4 months. The integration of online pinning, hugely important in the concept of channel transformation as well. So we've moved thousands of activities that used to happen in branch into that digital channel. And so, like I say, digital sales were from the recent Finalta survey was our digital sales are up 150% on last year. So really seeing a real desire from customers to engage in digital end to end. And so lastly, just a look to the future. The one thing that we are experimenting with now is moving those conversations to make them more two-way. So how do we use VC and chat as digital enablers of human interaction, and experimenting with artificial intelligence, personal assistance, the role of making that a two-way conversation moving forward. So watch this space in that regard. So look, that's just a quick summary. I really look forward to taking your questions at the end, but for now I think we'll hand back to Penny to look at the next poll.
Great, thank you very much. Our next poll is, to what extent is your bank mobile first? Are you investing heavily in mobile banking payment apps, making it a top priority? Do you invest some in your mobile banking apps but don't make it a top priority, still have branches and other channels to worry about? Or are you still thinking about or developing your first mobile app? We give people a second to vote there. All right, let's look at their results. And okay, about half, a little more than half of you are, investing some but don't make it a top priority. But 44% of you say it is your top priority. So that's really that's interesting. That does show a pretty high level of commitment from this group. Well, now I'd like to turn the floor over to Jeff Dennis at BBVA Compass. Jeff?
Thank you, Penny. I would like to, first of all, just congratulate Jamie and Melissa on their progress there. I like what both of them are accomplishing. I wanted to start a little bit with our purpose of why we're doing this, what we consider really a digital transformation or a client experience transformations that I've often felt like, and data certainly supports this, is that sort of the number one cause of stress is the unexpected demands that we have on our money, and the unexpected decisions that people make related to their money, and the stress that causes in their life. And we all know that the number one cause of health issues is stress. And so I really feel like the industry that we're in is a very noble industry, in the sense that we are not just taking care of people's money, but we really should be giving back and doing like Melissa's doing with Melvin, about helping people with their financial stress, if you will, and relieving that stress. And so everything we are focused on is around that purpose. And so we start pretty much with everything is mobile first, as more and more people are expecting their money to be in their pocket with their phone everywhere they go. We were awarded a recent award from Money recently of Best Mobile App, which we were certainly proud about. But more importantly is we've added some things like a wallet recently. This month it's actually live now in 5 different countries, but you see some of the stats there around the results that we're having in the first month here in the U.S. Everything is real-time with it, so real-time alerts, real-time notifications, real-time to be able to turn your card off and turn it back on, so you're totally in control of when your card is active and when it's not. Therefore, again, reduce some of that stress of somebody being able to steal your credentials and leverage your credit card or your debit card without you knowing. We also recently launched a new app that we call ClearSpend, and it's basically a prepaid card, but the real benefit of it is that it automatically starts doing your budgeting for you within the first 30 days of you using the card on your mobile phone. Everything's real-time notification, real-time alerts, real-time updates to your budget across all different categories, and there's no real manual process that you have to go through to set this budget up. It just automatically creates the budget based on your spend, and most people have a sort of an emotional reaction when they see what their actual budget is, because most of us don't have a budget. We just sort of have buckets in our heads of how we manage this. The thing that I've been surprised and proud about this is that almost 70% of the sales that we have done with this product have been all digital through a mobile device or an iPad or a computer, which is exactly where we want to be, being able to provide solutions that we believe that our clients are becoming more and more expected to, and all of our clients. Next slide here. Yesterday, there was an article in the American Banker, as a matter of fact, about how in the UK, regulators are actually pushing for banks to open up their core banking through APIs to allow for an open source environment. And we've been under this transformation for the better part of 12 to 14 months now, and have opened this up all the way for all of our deposit products and debit card products, to where now we could put any interface on top of our core banking platform. It doesn't have to be something that we built internally. It's something that we could expose to any developer, and any developer can sign into the sandbox and start building applications, or we can contract with companies that are already building an interface or have a client base that wants to be able to do something around the likes of banking. So we've connected this up with the likes of a company called Dwala, where they do real-time movement of money. We've also connected it up with a company called Simple that we have actually purchased, but the reality is that now with that interface can be an interface that interfaces into our core banking without us actually building the user interface itself. So I really believe that this is critical to our industry, in the sense that our industry will be just as disrupted as many of the other industries that we've seen be disrupted by this digital era that we live in. And so I really believe that this is key to our success, in the sense that we're really skating where we believe the puck is going to go, in the sense that we believe that people are already in startups and other companies getting into the fringes of banking, and we, rather than sort of fight every single one of those, we want to make sure that we're playing with them and being a part of that disruption. This is just sort of a view of how I look at the world in 2016, and rapidly changing. So we talked about the mobile app. Well, we've created new ATMs that have live interfaces where you can have a call into the call center and not have to have people sitting in a branch. You can put these ATMs anywhere, and they can be virtual branches. Our merchant banking, which is really just a combination of apps that we allow our merchants now to be able to manage their business in a much more effective, efficient way through their phone, through their iPad, and not to have a cash register or a typical point-of-sale device that you see today. One of the things that I find that has been very successful to us is to be able to actually reach out to our digital clients in what we call Expert Direct, and just not only just welcome them to the family, but also help them to make sure that they're set up with all of the capabilities that we are offering them. And I think that human touch is still extremely important, even though people are expecting to be able to do things more and more with their phones and mobile devices. I've already talked about ClearSpend. Apple Pay is something I know most of us are jumping into the middle of. I know there's been talk about wallets for a number of years, and more of them are coming online, and we're certainly providing our clients with that as well. And then, every product that we roll out anymore is all rolled out with the idea that it has to be digital from end to end, and that there would be no human touch. It has to be straight through processing. And one of the recent ones that we did was our NBA American Express card, which again people can apply for on a mobile device and manage the card and manage the experience completely from their wallet and from their mobile device. So fast-paced environment we're living in, but very, very critical industry that I think we are part of and being able to help people reduce the stress that they have associated with the demands on their money. So with that, Penny, I'll turn it back over to you, and thank you very much.
Great, thank you. And now we're going to hear from Paul Giordano, who is a Director of Product Marketing at Lexmark. Paul?
Sorry there, I had to go off mute there for a second. All right, thank you very much. All right, so this is my opportunity to sort of shamelessly talk about what Lexmark can do to enable a lot of the capabilities that you've heard some of our banking colleagues talk about today. And you heard Jamie at the beginning talking about the focus on a sales and service model. And one of the things that Lexmark, Kofax Lexmark brings to the party is all of the tools that enable you to build an environment that provides all of those sales and service capabilities. But one of the things that you didn't hear any of our colleagues talk about today is how do you manage transactions, digital transactions end to end? A lot of the talk was around allowing people, enabling processes, and enabling and access to data and information, and doing that in an omni-channel way. But a lot of these transactions involve actually approving something, or let's say, for example, if you're doing a new client onboarding, or someone who's applying for a mortgage, those kinds of activities involve actually signing something, signing a document. So one of the things that, in addition to all of this, the mobile capabilities and the analytics capabilities that are part of our smart process application platforms, we also have the ability to enable people to transact business by the signing and approving of documents. So we have an electronic signature capability that can be added to any of the workflow processes you heard our colleagues talk about today. And that enables the bank or a customer to actually transact business. So to complete an application, sign it, have that be a legally enforceable signature, and do that in a completely digital fashion, without having to send documents through the mail or send documents by email, having someone have to print those things out, sign something, and fax that back. So Kofax enables a lot of the capabilities that you saw today, but it also enables closing the loop and keeping those transactions completely digital by adding e-signatures to that process as well. Okay, back to you, Penny.
Great, thank you. Okay, now we're going to go to Q&A with our panelists. Our first question from the audience is for Jeff. It's about the expert direct service that you mentioned. And the question is how are you reaching out to people? Is it over the phone or through video conferencing or some other way?
Well, it's any way we can get a hold of them. So many times we're texting, but we do email. We obviously call as well, but quite frankly, texting seems to be the most successful channel to actually to start the conversation. And then if they need something that's a little more in depth, generally that ends up in an email or a phone call.
Okay. We also have a question about what do each of the speakers view as your two current most critical risks with the digital platform. I would imagine security is one. Anybody have any?
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in there, Penny. Melissa here. So look, security, absolutely. The other thing that's really keeping me awake at night, and I think this ties into another question that's just come through, is around how do you change your products to suit digital channels. So one thing we're really focusing on is absolute simplification of all of our products. And when you remove that kind of human element when you're originating new sales, you really have to redesign that product end to end. We struggled when we first took the application forms of regular products and we tried to digitize them. We quickly realized that didn't work, and we had to completely re-engineer the process. And so how do you move from a hugely complex product world into a simple digital world, and how do you make sure that the customer has the right product for them, where you don't have that element of advice coming through? So big focus for us when we build out our e-commerce platforms, and something we're really needing to think hard about.
Okay. Okay, we have a question about have any of you redesigned your product offerings as a result of the digital transformation? So I guess that means like actual, checking accounts, loans, the underlying financial products. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I wouldn't say redesign completely, but I would just say that every product that we launch today is all with the mindset that it has to be end-to-end clear, and then straight through processing, that there is no human touch in the underwriting, the approval, etc. And it has to all be done through a mobile device. So I wouldn't call it unique products, just the way we design them is differently now.
Okay, fair enough. Question about texting or website chat. Which departments handle that? I think, Melissa, you mentioned you do have your customer service people handle that?
We do. We have chat functionality. We actually launched a digital branch within our contact center specifically to work with chat. It is a new way. It is a new way of working. And the important thing is, as we're actually looking more and more into the video conferencing channels, and how do we actually integrate those into the existing telephony systems and the routing and the likes. So look, there's real appetite from customers to engage that way. There's a real challenge around how do you get all of your other channels engaged and working with it too. So something that I'm sure will grow in popularity, but some internal challenges as to how to make that work properly. Absolutely.
Sure. Next question is for Jamie. You mentioned that you've got mobile enrollment for new customers. The question is, can you become a brand new customer completely through mobile? For instance, opening a DDA account.
Yeah, I would just echo what Jeff had said earlier about that, and the fact that we have our online account application process is all fully mobile enabled, so you can go straight through from researching products. So we have a handset friendly sales experience. You can research the product, apply through the mobile device, and then go download the app and go straight into mobile banking. So it's all seamless end-to-end processing for all of the deposit accounts.
Okay. Another question for you. It's about how do you balance the real estate on the mobile device versus online banking with your strategy of increasing customer cross-selling? So I guess it's basically how do you do the cross-selling when you have a very limited screen size?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly more challenging. You can't do sort of the same things that you do in online. You don't have sort of the same marketing vehicles, but really the underlying way to take advantage of that is data driven, and so we're working to increasingly connect our digital channels with a multi-channel CRM ecosystem that we have at the bank. And so that ecosystem has a variety of channels providing input data, external third-party data coming into it, and then it's doing the engine in the middle is doing the next logical product modeling that's resulting in sort of the offers and ads associated with for various customers. So it's getting very personalized, and what we're finding is that what matters more is sort of the degree of personalization and targeting that you can come through with versus just sort of screen real estate and online banking. So obviously, customers in financial services are not immune to banner blindness, so they're going to look past things that aren't relevant. So we're finding data is really kind of the key element there.
Okay. Well, that segues to our next question, which is where do you keep and manage all the customer data collected from digital transactions, and do you update the data in real time? I guess that's for any of you that wants to comment on analytics.
I'll start and then maybe defer to Jeff or Melissa, but we're on an enterprise data warehouse architecture, so that's the primary repository, so everyone's contributing data to that. It's not updated in real time, but we do have daily data, and so what I was referring to in the ad targeting and so forth is more daily than it is true real time. So we're piloting with big data in terms of true big data architecture to look at enhancing that. So it's a space. It's a really hot space, obviously, big data in general, but you kind of have to break it down and look at what are you doing with that. So we'll continue to advance that engine, be it timeliness of data or the ability to handle massive amounts of data and bring in additional third-party data to continue to enhance that targeting capability. So that's kind of where we are today with that, but it is it's sort of an area of investment and a deliberate sort of work stream and investment path for Bank of the West.
Okay, great. Any other thoughts on that, Melissa or Jeff?
No, I don't know that we're any further along. I would just say that it is a huge investment for us right now is learning how to manage big data and leveraging the data to help people make better financial decisions.
Sure, it's a huge job. The next question is for you, Jeff, again about your expert direct service. The question is, are those call center staff or digital experts? I'm not sure what's meant by digital experts, but who's handling those queries?
Well, I think it is a good question, and believe it or not, it's actually some of our best bankers. So we've taken some of our best bankers out of branches and put them into a call center type environment, but they're very familiar with our products and services as sort of their first training, and then we're teaching them how to be digital experts.
Okay. Our next question is about do you make quality service surveys part of the conversation with the client? Who integrates the info? I guess I'll ask Melissa, since you talked a lot about having those conversations with customers. Do you try to make surveys part of that?
We do, yes. So the Next Best Conversation platform actually included the feedback loop as well in a voice of customer. And I think the important thing of that was just it was very timely. So we capture feedback after every interaction, and the quality of the feedback we get, because it's so timely, is fabulous. In fact, we saw NPS where we would respond to that feedback within 24 hours. The promoter score actually increased from 8 to 48. So the importance of timeliness in capturing that feedback is huge. We also included a very easy feedback channel when we launched Westpac One, and that feedback really helped inform the backlog of our agile development. So hugely important to have that two-way channel, absolutely.
Sure. Next question is for Jamie. The question is, in the organizational growth you reviewed concerning digital support, was that only within the business and product line, or did that include, or was there similar growth to support in customer care, branch, IT, et cetera, supporting that?
So good question. Yeah, I would say the commensurate growth was within the technology organization. So when I joined the organization, Bank of the West was largely sort of vendor platform driven with outsourced IT through those vendors. And we're still using and leveraging a number of different vended platforms, but the difference now is that we have an internal IT organization that can do development on those platforms, do co-development with the vendors, et cetera. So it puts us in a pretty different position for kind of managing our roadmap and managing our expense base with that. The other areas are more the support functions, where you've had sort of growth in, compliance, dedicated compliance support, dedicated support within legal, dedicated support within operational risk group. So those support partners have, added some degree of staff, but it's not huge numbers. And then beyond that, there's not really the banking center. I always say the folks doing banking center sort of network optimization are my best friends because they sort of fund our existence. But and what I mean by that is, of course, we've been rationalizing the staff as many organizations have been doing. We've been moving to more of a universal banker model. And we're obviously taking foot traffic out of the stores. I mean, that's not a secret. But the flip side of that is the folks that are the bankers are having much more meaningful conversations with the customers. So there's trying to think of a number off the top of my head. I think it's roughly 5% of our 5% reduction in the branch-based deposit volume, right? And that's going directly into the phones. And so that's a lot of foot traffic that's not coming to the store, but those aren't value-added transactions or experiences with our customers. So it's freeing up the bankers to do more focused conversations and do more of that type of activity. But there has been, commensurate with the growth in the digital channels organization that I'm responsible for. Obviously, the technology has been really the key partnership that's enabled everything that we've been able to bring to market.
Okay, great. Our next question, I think I'm going to direct it, Jeff. The question is, with third-party services such as data aggregation, bill pay, goal setting, et cetera, how important is it to own the user interface versus brand the vendors? Not all vendors have the full API, and I suspect building a great user interface is complex if you don't have the user experience skills. Now, you guys, I think, are an interesting example because you bought Simple and you opened your API to Simple, but you have really let them keep their own brand and their independence. Maybe you could share the philosophy behind that, and would you always try to do it that way?
Well, the reason it's a tough question is because really it's sort of the commitment that your institution has around owning the experience, and I think that there's some times that you want to say we absolutely want to own that experience because we think we can create an experience that is somewhat differentiated from either the industry or from competitors. But at some points also, I think that you don't want to build and design everything yourself, or you're only going to be able to go as fast as the talent that you have inside your organization. So being able to leverage not just other vendors, but even other software developers, I feel like is critical for the speed of change that we have to execute in anymore.
Mm. And also, in a related vein, you mentioned that, you could open your API to any developer, but what do you guys think about when you're deciding who you want to partner with, who you want to make part of your, give that access to your code and your data?
Well, I think first and foremost is, do their values sort of align with ours, and are they after a client experience that's trying to help a client be in better control of their financial lives or their money? And if those things align, then I think that we're more apt to let them into our sandbox, if you will, and let them begin to tinker and code. So that's just first and foremost is we really stay true to our mission or purpose.
Okay, that makes sense. The next question is, does wealth management or financial planning play into a digital transformation, and how so? And I think you all mentioned some type of financial planning or financial advice tool that you're building. I didn't hear as much about, are any of you trying to build wealth management into this as well?
Absolutely, it's an essential part of managing your money. So it's just sort of going upscale from someone that just has enough to have the basics to someone that actually has investments and is saving for whatever purpose or goal they're after. So I think it's critical to being able to help people achieve their financial dreams.
Okay. Next question is, research shows that the vast majority of mobile bankers are either Gen Y or Gen X. However, a large part of the deposit volume is held by boomers and seniors. How do you balance the growth in technology across all demographics?
Hey, Penny, I can jump in. It's Jamie. Sure. Given that Bank of the West tends to have a slightly older demographic in our customer base, it's something that we're very mindful of, especially with something like the online banking redesign and bringing that new platform to market. But what you find over time, though, is good design is good design, and it works, and it does work universally. You don't necessarily hear about how old people have a backlash to iPhones or something. So we've found that good, clean design and intuitive user experience is something that's pretty much universal. There's always the reaction to any customer base of who moved my cheese, and this boy, I used to click here, and where'd that button go? But we've had a really nice kind of rebound, if you will, from the impact of the changes, and have some of our highest online banking SAT scores coming through with that customer base. So sort of really pleased with the outcome from that effort. But I think if you're mindful in your design process, that's how you balance the two.
Sure. Jamie, we have another question for you. You spoke about growing your digital talent base significantly between 2012 and 2015. How did you go about achieving this? Did you find it challenging to attract talent and compete with more digitally oriented industries?
It is certainly a challenge in the Bay Area. So we're right in the heart of San Francisco. So our competition is not just the other financial institutions. It's Google, Facebook, you name it. So we were fortunate to be able to recruit and bring some good people over from some of the other financial institutions. We found people through some technology startups, and I think part of the success in recruiting has been just the culture that we've tried to create here. So we've try to bring sort of our best practices, if you will, from our prior lives and experiences, and leave some of the bureaucracy behind. So we've been fortunate to have a really large degree of autonomy in how we operate and how we plan and execute the work. And the organization is extremely supportive of us. So I think folks have enjoyed being able to work in that environment and be able to basically recruit from their colleagues that they've worked with in the past. That's been really the primary source.
Okay, great. And for everyone, there's a question about, can you talk about your implementation failures and lessons learned? And maybe these could be from previous jobs, so you don't have to make any.
I'm happy to jump in there, Penny. I think one of our very early learnings, we went out very early to say that we wanted to be the leading digital bank, and we were really at risk of losing our people in that journey, and so we quickly kind of turned that round to say that we were actually people-led and digitally backed, just to make sure that we continue to build that human element. And it's always a fine line, but you've got to keep that human element, because ultimately the people in the network are just as important to building those customers' relationships as the digital are. So getting that balance is really hard.
Okay, that's fair. All right, the next question is about how are you handling budgetary constraints? A lot of the IT budget tends to go toward running and maintaining legacy systems, and there's often not enough left over to change systems. Anybody want to share any tips for increasing the digital banking budget?
It all starts at the top.
The benefit of partnerships as well, I think, in terms of being able to speed up delivery. That's been hugely important for us. But look, it's a challenge. It's an absolute challenge. You're constantly looking to develop that digital integration layer to make yourself more nimble on the front end. It's a balance.
Yeah, I think there's always ways to get better in time to market and how much you spend or how much you do with what you have. But I also think you have to have that commitment at the top that this is the journey you're on.
Okay, sure. All right, I think we'll make this our last question. This is something we've written about a little bit. How do you walk the line of respecting customers' privacy while still bringing personalized offerings and relevant information through your digital channels? And we'll direct this at Melissa, since you talked the most about the personal conversations.
Look, it's all about delivering value. The customers have to really see the value in the conversations that you're having for them to appreciate the proactivity. So making sure that you're prioritizing absolutely the right conversations and that you're maximizing the value for the customer of those. So not just product-led conversations, but service-led conversations and how you can help them optimize their financial health and little tips about how they could be managing their banking more effectively. So a relentless focus on customer value, I think, is critical for them seeing the benefit of us using their data.
Okay, great. Well, unfortunately, we are out of time. I'd like to thank our speakers, Jamie Armistead, Melissa Stewart, Jeff Dennis, and Paul Giordano. I'd like to thank all of you for your attention. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Lexmark. And on behalf of American Banker, I'd like to wish you all a great afternoon.